All right, guys, it's episode 700. You know what that means. It's time for another edition of the Maldives Honeymoon Launch Strategy, where we talk about everything that's working for launching products on Amazon for 2025 and 2026. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. And those of you watching this on YouTube, you can see from the background, we are back here in the Maldives. First time at a new location, the Maldives, I think I'm pronouncing that right, resort. Here it's another Hilton property. This place normally costs $2,500 a night. I'm here on my points, guys. Don't forget, Hilton American Express, Chase Sapphire, flew here on business class. Helium 10 is not paying me a dime for this. I'm doing it all on my own. I've got other episodes for travel hacking and stuff like that. You guys can watch that. But the reason I come here, for those who are new to the show, every year is because we came up with something called the Maldives Honeymoon Launch Strategy. It's just kind of like a fun way of talking about this certain strategy of launching products on Amazon to get the most bang for your buck. Now, if you're just hopping on this episode, an important aspect of this Maldives Honeymoon Launch Strategy, it's actually used to be 2 episodes I would do it, but now I split it into this other episode called the Bali Blast episode. That's what I call like the keyword research. It's a vital part of the launch strategy, having the right keywords in your listing. So make sure to check that episode out. All right, that's actually $6.99, right? The one right before this. So you can just go directly there, h10.me/699. It's important that you watch that first before watching this. I also have some cool information about like, hey, has the age of AI and also the age of Rufus and things like that, has it changed drastically the way that people are searching? Because if the way that Amazon customers are searching on Amazon, guess what? That's going to affect your keyword research. It's going to affect the way you launch. We talk about that in the last episode, so make sure to check that out. But now, just to start off, I think something important that some people wonder about is there still a honeymoon period? Now, I've never questioned this. This is just like, to me, it's like a documented fact. But there's confusion out there because of what people have heard about like different definitions. Okay, so people are like, no, who's right, Bradley? You're right, or other people I hear are right? No, I'm like, we're all right. All right. If you ever hear somebody say out there, hey, there's no such thing as a honeymoon period anymore, or something like that, I actually agree with that because they're talking about something else. All right, so whatever somebody has shown me when I actually looked at it, I'm like, that's not the honeymoon period that I talk about. If you're thinking about a honeymoon period and just like some random period of time that Amazon is just going to send thousands of people to your listing for no particular reason, no, Amazon does not do that. If Amazon did that before, I don't know. I never studied that, too much, but that's not what I consider the honeymoon period. So as far as there not being something like that anymore, 100% agreement. When we've been doing this episode, this is now my 8th time, I think, in the Maldives. We've done this episode. When we talk about the honeymoon period, it's talking about how when a listing is brand new, there are so few data points that Amazon has on it. There's like ways that you can, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but take advantage of the fact that any little push to this listing has a lot bigger effect than a mature listing. All right. So like, for example, if I've got a listing 2 years old, Amazon has millions of data points to be able to see, hey, how do buyers interact with this? What kind of keywords do they search for, et cetera, et cetera. But with a listing that's brand new, all it has to go by is the information that's in the listing itself. We'll talk about that. And then plus whatever is happening in those first few days, first few weeks of launch. All right. So like, let's say 2 sales happen on a new keyword that a product has never got sales for, and this product is 2 years old. Is that product going to rise to the top of page 1 of the search results on a mature listing? No. But in the honeymoon period, again, this is not an Amazon term. It's just a term that somebody else made up, not me. I'm not the first one to say it. But in a new listing, what happens is 2 orders could very well take you to page 1 because Amazon's like, oh shoot, this is like all the data we have, and like people are going crazy over this product, even though it's only 2 orders. So that's what we mean when we talk about honeymoon period on Amazon, and that's all. That's still the case. I don't see that ever going away. All right, this honeymoon period, because just how else will Amazon figure out what products are for, right? Now, the Maldives Honeymoon is something that we came up with a few years ago, where it's like, you know what, how do we get the most out of the honeymoon period? How can we get a little bit more oomph? You know, the best honeymoon in the world is a Maldives honeymoon. Otherwise, why would this place cost $2,500 a night, right? So how do we get that like extra benefit on a listing that's new to take advantage of the honeymoon period? And so that's what we call the Maldives honeymoon period. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into the aspects of this Maldives honeymoon period. And like I said, you know, TLDR, honeymoon period still alive and well. Here's a couple of the products that I did for this test. Here's one that I started 2 weeks ago, as of today, almost 2 weeks ago, compared to when I'm recording this. You could see right away page 2 from like day 1, and then by day like 4 of this launch, already on page 1 for a couple of the keywords that I was testing. Here's another product that just is new, and like in the last week, not on page 1 yet. That's actually going to be something really wild. I was testing trying to get on page 1 for a keyword that I'm not optimized for, because it's like a trademark, so I can't put the exact phrase in my listing. So that's kind of cool. Stay to the end for that. But even that one, where it's going against the traditional norms, I'm already on page 1 on one keyword, and the other ones are like already on page 2, maybe bottom of page 1. So yes, honeymoon period absolutely is alive and well. Now remember, this is just about launch, okay? I could probably get you a lot of products, depending on how I make the listing, to get to page 1. Is it gonna stay on page 1? Every single one? Of course not. Not if I chose the keywords incorrectly, or I don't have what I like to call a right to win. I am not going to try and get to page 1 for keywords where I cannot organically stick there with sustained orders after getting there. All right, that's dumb. Why am I wasting money to do that? All right, the honeymoon launch period takes time and money. So you're going to have to, you know, be advertising for these keywords. You're going to have to continue to convert. You're going to have to send outside traffic, all these other things. This is specifically, though, how to get visible. All right, because you want to get in the game. But if you can't even get invited in the door, how can you participate? All right. So that's what the honeymoon launch period is about, is, hey, get on page 1, get visible. But again, on the keywords that once you're there, you feel you have a right to stay, because you're going to keep converting. All right. So just make sure you understand that, you know, this is not just some you know, random thing that will keep you on page 1 no matter what you do. Once again, check the Bali Blast episode, h10.me/699, so you can find out how to get the keywords. Now, some things that you can even keep in mind before you even start a product, all right? Check the title density of keywords, all right? The title density is Amazon or Helium 10 exclusive metric, where how many listings on page 1 have the exact phrase in the title of the search keyword. All right. So for example, if the keyword is coffin shelf or Halloween room decor, there's actually only one listing, as you can see from here, on Amazon that has the word Halloween room decor. Now, that right away can be like, oh shoot, if that's one of your main keywords, it's very doubtful that's going to be, you know, one of your main keywords. But if it is one of the main keywords, basically that means that you could be on page 1 from day 1 of the listing without even an order or anything. All right. So if you can find a product, they're very, very rare, but that's kind of, you know, helpful. And just keep that in mind as you're launching for some of your important keywords. If you find something that has a low title density, that's like fast track to page 1 during the launch period. So take a look at that. It's in Cerebro, Magnet, any of our keyword tools, title density. Analyze a competitor strength. All right. Before you hop into a niche, you know, like I said, we can get any product to page 1, but if all the competitors are super strong, you're not going to stick on there. All right. So look into niches, you know, like use listing analyzer here. That's what you guys are looking at. For those of you watching on YouTube, check how optimized people are for a certain listing, or how their listings are optimized for a certain keyword, the main keywords. Are they all strong? Are like all of the main keywords, all of the competitors are on page 1? I'm not saying that's a complete deal breaker, but might say, you know what, I might not want to launch this product right now because it's going to be too hard to compete. All right. Another way you can do that is by throwing everything in Listing Builder. All right. We can analyze the strength, the SEO power. If a bunch of these listings, even if they are on page one on a lot of the main keywords, but they're not well optimized for it, their SEO score per Helium 10 is not high, they don't have a lot of keywords and phrase form that's important, that could actually give you a little bit of bump. At the end of the day, it's the consumer who decides, not the Amazon algorithm. But if we're just talking about SEO value, it means there's another small path to get to page one if your competition is weak. So make sure you're throwing all the competitors in Listing Builder and checking the strength of their SEO. All right. Another thing you can do is coming up with products. And this is how I did this one product. This is a test product I did. I used somebody's account for it. Explore bundling options. All right. So that's another way to kind of have a unique value prop, even in competitive niches. So in this one that I was trying, I think it was like disco straws I saw. I was like, you know what? It's a little bit saturated. I also looked, what about disco balloons? A little bit saturated. But the reason I found that was the balloons was I was looking at disco straws. I was looking at frequently bought together, and disco balloons was frequently bought together with these disco straws. And I was like, let me try a bundle that nobody else has. And then by definition, there's going to be a lot of things that if anybody searches disco balls and straws, I'm now the only product that's going to come out on this test product. So that's another way to kind of like, hey, not necessarily 100% related to Maldives Honeymoon launch strategy, but gives you a better chance at like sticking the landing and getting some traction is having a unique product. All right. But just be careful. Like there's got to be demand for it. Don't just put two random products together with no data that gives you an idea that you might win on it. Use Helium 10 black box product, or what is it called? Black box product targeting tab. And you'll be able to see the history of the frequently bought together for different products. That's how I found one of these test products that I'm doing here. Another thing is, hey, if your listing has variations, guys, without Helium 10, you wouldn't be able to see this. But in Helium 10, we actually have sales estimates at the product level, all right? Not just at the parent level like we always had before, at the product level. So if you're trying to see, hey, what should I launch? Which color, which size? Use Helium 10's Xray to make sure that you are launching the correct variation, all right? All right. Another thing, to get ready before is identify the main topics from reviews. Sometimes on some people's accounts, Amazon doesn't even let you look at the reviews. And so when you try and use the Helium 10 review insights, there might be an error message. It has nothing to do with Helium 10. It's just that Amazon is actually blocking your Amazon account from that. So if you ever get that, log into another Amazon account or use it incognito or something like that. But basically, you want to see what are the main phrases that people are talking about. That's something that's important. It has nothing necessarily to do with your keyword SEO launch, but having that in your listing is super important for making a good listing from day one, is making sure you have in your listing, how are people using the product? What are their fears? What problems are they solving? Super important by looking at the reviews. You can also do that. This is something new that I haven't had in previous years. Look at the Rufus questions. All right. So I'm looking at one of the competitor straws, disco straws right here. I looked at Rufus and it says, can it be used for hot drinks? What is the diameter of the disco ball? So I'm like, these might be good. Rufus still isn't great for picking these great questions, but still, for the 1 out of 100 customers or whatever that might be using that, why not optimize for them? It's free. This is free. Like you don't even need Helium 10 to look at Rufus questions. Make sure your listing is optimized for these Rufus questions. It's going to help, especially as if Amazon pours more and more money into Rufus, it's going to be more and more sophisticated. You're going to be set up if you're optimized for Rufus. So make sure to do that. Again, it has nothing to do necessarily with the launch of your product and the SEO and getting on page one, but I think it's an important step to take into consideration. You can also get insights from reviews using Amazon Product Opportunity Explorer, completely free tool that Amazon has. It'll let you know like what kind of aspects of the reviews are really driving the product ratings, both good and bad. So these are all important aspects. Some, there's many others that I haven't mentioned here, but that don't even have to necessarily do with SEO, which is what we're mainly talking about, but I think are still important to help you, again, stick the landing and for longevity. All right. Amazon is not about just a hack to get to page one and boom, let's just keep going. No, it's about longevity is what you're striving for. All right. One last thing that has nothing to do with necessary launch is your images. Images are super important. So 2 things here. Analyze what your competitors are doing. Go into Listing Analyzer in Helium 10 and hit the button Media Comparison after putting a whole bunch of your competitor products in there, right? Look up Media Comparison. get an overview. Does everybody have infographics? What are people doing for their images? And that's going to help you, again, help your conversion rate, is if you have a really optimized image stack based on what obviously the top players in your niche have been doing and optimizing over time. And if you ever want to like split test some of your creatives, make sure you use Helium 10 Audience for that. You just say, hey, if you're looking for the dimensions of this coffin shelf, which image most resonates with you? Or hey, if you were searching for disco ball straws, and these were the 3 images that showed up in the search results, which one would you most likely click? Guys, this is super important to have. Every single launch, guys, you should do, and let me repeat that again. Every Amazon launch you do, you should be using Helium 10 Audience. Not because I get money from it. I don't get money from it. Be one person who uses it, 1,000 people who use it. I don't get a cent, all right? So I'm not incentivized to try and get you to pay Helium 10 money for this. I've been using this since even before Helium 10. I worked at Helium 10. Because it's a tool that was powered by PickFu before, or that is from PickFu. I used to use PickFu. Now it's inside of Helium 10. But anyways, this is so important, guys. Every single launch, you should be running Helium 10 Audience through to make sure you have the best images. All right. Now, here's something where we start hopping into the actual launch. I, nowadays, for the most part, always want to do a fully optimized test listing. This is not one of those test listings that we talked about before where it's like, I'm not sure if I want to get into this niche and I want to do a test listing to test the demand. No, this is not that. What this is for is you want to check your relevancy. I've talked a lot about this example. I have it here showing up on the screen where I could not get advertising for the word coffee in these coffee socks. All right. These were socks I had that said, if you can read this, bring me coffee. It was a test I was doing. I could not get impressions for the keyword coffee. Right. And that's my main keyword, like gifts for coffee lovers and for moms who love coffee. I could not get PPC impressions, and I wasn't even indexed, for some of it, even though I had the word coffee throughout my listing. So because of that, and for whatever reason, sometimes Amazon does not think you're relevant for keywords. Even if you're listing, you seemingly have it optimized for that keyword for whatever reason. It's kind of like hit or miss. You can't really tell. So that's just one of the reasons why I do a test listing to check, first of all, am I indexed for every keyword in the way I'm going to structure my listing? Am I indexed? Which means, am I searchable? Am I relevant to Amazon? There's something exclusive in Helium 10 you can't get in any other tool that'll help you understand what Amazon thinks you're relevant for. And also, hey, what advertising budgets, or not budgets, but target PPC bids, I should say, get me to the top of page 1. Like when you're doing launch, you're going to find out later, you want to be shown for like 5 or 10 keywords at the very top of page 1. What's the bid that gets you there? You don't want to be testing out on a live listing necessarily. And then the last thing is, at what price point do I get people to buy this product, even though it has very few reviews? All right. So all of this is reason to make a test listing. Cost money. It may cost you a couple $100 or a little bit less, depending, but it could potentially save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how big of a launch this is. All right. So here's that first check. I ran all my lists or my keywords through Index Checker. You want to make sure you're searchable. And if not, go back, try and fix it. All right. Because, for your real listing that you're going to launch, you want to be searchable for every single keyword from day one. Okay. Next step, run it through Cerebro after that test listing is live. Okay, so this is all part of the same step, actually. Which step are we on? We're on step 9. All right. Look at the column in Cerebro called Amazon Recommended Rank. Basically, what that means is per Amazon, what do they think your product is? And sometimes, right off the bat, Amazon knows exactly what your product is. It has tons of data, and you'll see a lot of keywords. Here's an example of my test listing for a disco straws, and it only gave me 2 words that it thought I was relevant for: party supply and reusable straw. So as you can imagine, my advertising was terrible because of that. Because like Amazon wasn't going to give me too many impressions for some keywords when it wasn't even like thinking that I'm a disco ball or anything, right? So take a look at my advertising. Sure enough, the first couple of days I was advertising this test listing, I got like 40 impressions, which is nothing when we're talking about advertising for a keyword called disco ball balloons. And then my other important keyword, disco straws, 0 impressions, even though I was indexed for it. All right. So there we go. So I'm like, imagine if this was my launch and I'm trying to figure this stuff out on the fly. No. All right. So then what did I do? I actually sent some traffic there. Okay. So some people might consider this gray area. I don't personally. I'm using a 2-step URL to send a relevancy signal to Amazon. All right. Now somebody might say, hey, search, find, buy, 2-step URLs. Aren't those banned from Amazon? They're banned when you're trying to use those to manipulate ranking. All right. Like we used to do. There was nothing wrong with it before. And then 3 years ago, Amazon said, no, you can't do that anymore. All right. I'm using this just to make the Amazon algorithm. I'm not trying to rank for these keywords. I just want to make sure the Amazon algorithm knows that what my product is for. And so if you're indexed for it, use Index Checker to create this URL. What I like to do is a little trick. I put the keywords I want to get relevant for into Index Checker, even though I know it's going to say yes, it's indexed. But then there's a check mark in Index Checker under the field ASIN index. I right click on that. That's actually a URL. All right, man, a lot of you didn't know. I'm giving you guys underground techniques here. Right click on that, copy that URL, give that URL to 2 or 3 people for a couple of different keywords and have them purchase it. All right. So basically what that means is going to bring them to a search of the keyword. They're going to purchase it, and it sends this signal to Amazon. Hey, this product probably does have something to do with disco balls or something like that. So that's what I did. What happened 2 days later, guys? Take a look at my Cerebro now. All of a sudden, all my Amazon recommended keywords comes up, meaning that now Amazon is building their database of what my product is relevant for, and tons of disco related keywords. Interestingly enough, though, this round 1, it did not solve my issue for being relevant to disco straw, because look at these top 10 keywords that Amazon thinks I'm relevant for. Again, this is only in Helium 10. This is Cerebro. Even if you're on the Platinum plan, you can do this. There was no disco straw keyword. So then what happened was, first of all, the first part worked. Remember how I only had you probably saw this in this screenshot, 900 overall impressions and none for disco straw and stuff. I still had very few for disco straws, only 54 impressions, but my disco ball straws keyword brought me up to 218 because I did send somebody there for that traffic. But then overall, because Amazon thought I was more relevant for more keywords, I got 3,200 impressions in 2 days, whereas the previous 2 days before I did this little field ASIN check, I only had 900 impressions overall, and it wasn't for my main keywords. All right, so this is an important step. I'm gathering the data. What did I have to do to get relevant for the keyword? Again, this is my test listing. This is not what I'm going to go live with on Amazon permanently, but now all these tests I'm doing, hey, some things might work, some things might not work. I'd figure out what works, and then for my real listing later, now, on day 1, I go ahead and do all the stuff that I'm doing now. I don't have to guess and test what's going to work or not. The other thing, like I said, I tested is testing at what point do I get top 4 sponsored consistently. Now, as you can see here, that's in Helium 10. Only keyword tracker out there that has boost, where 24 times a day you're going to check in rotating scenarios where, hey, where am I ranking in sponsored ads? So in this test listing, I'm going to do a fixed bid, $2. Let's see where I'm ranking. And I was like, oh man, it's fluctuating from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. Okay, let me tighten it up. Let me go to 250, and then now am I consistently showing at the top? So again, you're taking down all this data so that when you launch the real listing from day 1, Now, is this something that every single person has the budget to do, or is feasible if you're launching hundreds of products? Maybe, maybe not. But this is what I do, because it's, in my opinion, it saves parts of my honeymoon period, where instead of trying to do all these tests on a live listing that I'm burning lots of money on, I do it on this listing that doesn't really mean anything. Step 10, again, something a little bit newer. Make the new listing using all the right keywords and all the optimization that we talked about before, but set the launch date in the future. All right, launch date is this semi-new date. Now, be very careful, guys. There's all kinds of dates in Amazon, and if you do the wrong one, it can mess you up. On these, I actually wasn't even able to use this technique I'm saying, because Amazon actually messed up my launch date. I did my launch date right, but Amazon said it wrong, or set it wrong, I should say. And I could not change it again. So I had to burn. I couldn't do this Vine thing I'm about to tell you guys about. The other thing I did, where I did the launch date right, Amazon had it right, but then there's other merchant release dates and stuff. But if you set those dates into the future, what happens is now Amazon Vine customers cannot even see the product. All right. So what they said, I haven't tested this fully, but what Amazon said is, if you want to get things to Vine, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but you still don't want anybody else to see the product, just change the product site launch date. After I got to figure out where this is in the flat files, because even in flat files, I couldn't see this anywhere. You can only do this when you set up your listing. All right. So set the launch date in the future, go 2 months in advance or something, because you're supposed to be able to change it, down the road later on, to go backwards in time. You just can't change it forwards in time. And then once you have that done, set up your Vine pre-launch reviews. If you've got the inventory in Amazon and you have the launch date in the future, meaning nobody can go to your listing, you can still do the Vine pre-launch reviews. It's a really cool way to get 10, 20, 30 reviews even on the day you launch. All right, so before it'd take you a month to get those 30 reviews, and you're having to have low prices for so long. But now imagine day one of your product launch, you could have 10, 20, 30 reviews there. So make sure to do that. Step 12. This is on the real listing. Now again, set up single keyword campaigns for 5 to 10 launch keywords. Okay, 5 to 10 launch keywords. And this is important that you want to set this up. And I don't even have a step on this, but you want to get orders from day one. I'll talk about the orders that you can get on day one. But set up single keyword campaigns for 5 to 10 launch keywords. And then what I have that helps in this Maldives Honeymoon is some of these keywords, I'll pick like 2 or 3 of my top keywords, and then I have 2 or 3 keywords that are supplementary of those that are going to support it. And basically those are long tail versions, or at least have that main keyword as a root. So for example, wooden egg tray for kitchen, wooden egg tray, egg tray for kitchen. Every single one of those keywords, if there's a sale for it, it's going to help this wooden egg tray for kitchen keyword, because it has, a wooden egg tray is a part of that. Does that make sense? So have keywords be roots, even though they're not all your top keywords. Pick your 2 or 3 top keywords, but then 2 or 3 other keywords that are supplementary, so that if those keywords get some action too, it's going to drive a little bit of like relevancy and juice to these other products. Now again, it's important that you are choosing the right keywords. Don't choose keywords for launch that everybody on page 1 has thousands of reviews, and you can get on page 1 sure easily, but then you'll fall right off because people aren't going to buy your product until you have more reviews. So choose keywords that you have a right to win on. Step 13 is, even on the launch, I'm still setting up my other campaigns. I'm setting up broad campaigns. I'm setting up auto campaigns, exact manual campaigns at lower bids, like very low bids. I'm going to raise them up later, but I want to start utilizing this honeymoon period to see if Amazon can find other keywords that I could technically convert for at a lower cost. All right, I don't want to put too much budget behind this, because during the launch period, I'm setting my price at sometimes a 50 or 60% discount. I talked about that earlier in the test listing. In the test listing, I'm examining, well, what price point do I have to have that will get people to buy my product, even though I have very few reviews. It could be 50% off, it could be 10% off, it could be 60% off, you don't know. But I don't want a whole bunch of people just randomly buying my product out there that they find on the internet, because it's not going to help my ranking. The 10 keywords I'm trying to launch for in that one launch campaign, that's what I'm trying to rank for initially. And so I'm losing, if I have a 60% off discount on my product via coupon or sale, every order I'm losing tons of money, which is fine. I'm trying to lose money. When I'm launching, you have to lose money when you launch, but I want it to at least work for my keyword ranking, right? So does that make sense? But at the same time, hey, if I can have a low bid on some other keywords and get some low hanging fruit sales, and I'll raise those bids up later, why not? All right, I want to get some traffic, so I use Helium 10 ads for that. I can create all of these campaigns with a click of a button, and it's going to harvest. It's going to be set up where the keywords are going to harvest to the other campaigns in that group without me having to do a whole bunch of manual labor. So that's in Helium 10 ads. Next up, step 14, your top 10 keywords that you're in launch, other top 20 keywords, throw those all in the keyword tracker, hit boost. All right, you want to be tracking your path to page 1 on these. You want to be tracking your sponsored ranks, especially on those ones that you are launching for. You do not want to guess if your launch is working. Like, am I getting to page 1? Am I showing up at the top of search in my sponsored ads? Number 15, set up your Helium 10 alerts. And verify Amazon didn't change your dimensions. Sometimes Amazon does that, all right? So in your Helium 10 alerts, just turn it on, because especially when a listing is new, Amazon usually remeasures it and might come up with something weird. And then if you're not checking this, you could be spending like $1 more per unit for shipping, just because Amazon screwed up on how they manage your listing. Also, this is going to help with some other alerts, like if Amazon changes your title or something. They've done that to me before, or all of a sudden somebody tries to mess with your images. So turn on Helium 10 alerts as soon as the product is live. Now, number 16, the day one, the product is now live. You had your 30 reviews because you did the Vine. Now is the product launch date. As soon as the product launch is live, get 3 to 5 people to purchase at the list price. Now, remember how I said on a new listing, sometimes you might have to do those field ASIN two-step URLs, all right? This is a good time to do that. You can kill two birds with one stone. Like if you have to send those relevancy signals to Amazon because it doesn't know that you're relevant for a keyword and you know exactly what you have to do because you tested it in the listing, you can kill two birds with one stone. Give that link to like 3 or 5 people who are going to purchase your product, all right? But the other reason they're doing this is because you have the product at your list price, all right? You want to set that as a baseline price so you can get the strike through price. So here I had 3 people order these disco straws at $15.99, all right? 2 days later, I'm doing my launch in my with a 50% off or 44% off, $8.97. There's a nice huge strike through price that shows up. Now this is weird. Amazon is weird sometimes that they'll like make that strike through price go away and it'll come back. Like it's kind of weird, but at least it's worth a try. And you always want to get 3 to 5 orders at the list price so you can keep that strike through, even going on into the future. Do not have any of your friends like leave a review or do anything shady like that. I even tell them, hey, don't leave a review. Just here, buy my product because I need to send these relevancy signals and I want to set my list price. Don't do a list price that's absolutely ridiculous. Like you got a $12 product, don't say, I'm going to get 3 orders at $39.99 so I can get a strike through price. No, Amazon will probably get mad at that. Now, part of step number 16 is also to monitor your CPR number. CPR is a number that's in Helium 10 Cerebro and also Keyword Tracker to let you know for a listing, what number of times does somebody have to search your keyword and then buy it over an 8-day period to give you the best chance to be on page 1, all right? So that's what you're kind of like shooting for. And so know your CPR numbers for your keywords you're trying to launch for. And then what happens is you're going to have that one big price, that huge sale price after you had that 3 orders at regular price. Let's say it's 60% off. Well, you don't want to waste more money than you have to. So like, for example, let's say the CPR number, well, look at this here, CPR number for disco ball party decoration straws is 8. So basically I only need 1 order a day. If I get a 1 order on day 1, I pause that target for the rest of the day because I want my budget to go to other keywords, all right? But here, this other one, disco ball party decorations, the CPR number is 27. So theoretically I need 3-4 orders a day. So I'm monitoring this. Hey, once I get to 3-4 orders in the day, I pause that target and then restart it the next day because I don't want to overspend, right? To get to the page 1. But play around with it. This is not like an exact science. Even different categories, respond differently when you're trying to rank. So this is important to understand. I tested that recently where I did a very similar one in 2 completely different categories and had a little bit different results. The CPR number is just meant to be kind of like a baseline, like an average that you have to keep in mind, but something to be monitoring. Like in other words, I don't want to have 10 orders a day on disco ball party decoration straws with a CPR of 8 that I'm getting. No, I actually don't want that. That's not a good thing because every order I'm losing money on. All right, so keep that in mind. Another bonus is check your inventory heat maps, all right? Make sure that your inventory is widely distributed. Inventory heat maps are on Helium 10 under profits, where you can make sure your inventory is distributed across the country before you go live. I would imagine with this new technique of waiting 1 month to have your products in Amazon so you can get those Vine reviews, they really should be already distributed, all right? So that shouldn't be as much of an issue. That's why I didn't even include it here. But if you're not doing that Vine pre-launch with the launch date in the future and you're just like, as soon as the product gets there, you want to go live ASAP, wait on going live until you check your inventory heat maps, okay? But guys, that's basically the main strategy. I'm going to give you a couple of bonus tips right now. But look at this. Here's a couple of keywords. I just did this like literally 2 weeks ago. It's still in launch. These tests that I'm running on someone's account right now. Look at there. There's a keyword, disco ball straws. Remember that was a keyword I couldn't even get relevant for on my test listing. And look at that. It took me 2 days to get to page 1. 5 days to get to the top of page 1 and been staying there ever since. Another keyword, disco straws. The other keyword I had trouble with, still got to page 1 after like 3 or 4 days and have been like top 5 ever since. All right. So these strategies work, guys. How long do you stay in this launch mode with your price? It depends. Like some people want to stay a month. They want like a month of data or a month of Amazon seeing great conversion rates and things like that. Some people start raising the price little by little as the reviews go up. All right. Some people like, nope, I'm just going to do it 2 weeks and I'm just going to go right to my list price. Do what works for you guys. But this is a way that at the beginning, you can save some money by using some of these techniques to get a little bit more bang for your buck when you do launch. How can you get even more bang for your buck? Another thing you could do, this is new, I didn't talk about this last year, connect your inventory to TikTok Shop and launch on TikTok at the same time. So you can do that. If you started a TikTok Shop in the USA, use Helium 10, and with a click of a button, you'll have your listing that you created on Amazon simultaneously live on TikTok with all the same images and with a different listing that's optimized for TikTok. And then with another click of the button, you can tie your inventory and orders from TikTok to Amazon. Again, with Helium 10, it connects you to Amazon MCF, multi-channel fulfillment. So you can't fulfill your own orders. It'll pull from your Amazon FBA inventory. So that's another strategy that you're going to be able to use on TikTok Shop. And then once you do that, you're going to want to use the Helium 10 Influencer Finder. Find 20, 30, 40 different influencers to promote your TikTok Shop item, but don't use the same price. Launch on TikTok Shop is not necessarily the same. Yes, you can do some big discounts, but don't think you have to do the exact same price. If you want to get big on TikTok, yeah, you might have to do some like low pricing or some crazy deals in the beginning, but that's like kind of like on a TikTok only launch. If your main goal is, hey, I want to even get my Amazon launch a little bit better and just at least get a little bit of traction, some videos of my product out there, keep the TikTok listing maybe at a little bit higher price. Just give a good incentive to the influencers who are going to promote it, like maybe a 20-25% commission rate on it. But what happens is if people see the video, they're like, all right, that's cool, but in TikTok Shop it's 15. A lot of people go to Amazon to find that product, right? So now what's happening when you're in your launch phase on Amazon, there's all this videos being created about your product on TikTok. A percentage of those customers seeing these videos, they're going to look for your product directly on Amazon. Now that might not help you for a certain keyword per se, but they could be searching for it via keyword just with like other words on it. But the point is, if these are traffic who are ready to buy your product, so they find your product on Amazon, they buy it. That helps your conversion rates on Amazon and helps send some outside traffic, and Amazon loves that stuff, especially during launch. So that's another way to get a little bit more bang for your buck on Amazon, is actually leveraging TikTok Shop traffic for that. Another test I just started last week, I was like, kind of like has to do with launch, was there's a movie coming out in America soon, Demon Slayer. It's an anime, right? Where's my Demon Slayer fans out? And I was like, I want to make some merch, but I don't want to get a license for Demon Slayer. That would take too long and be too expensive. So I was like, what if I do something that where everybody who sees the product, it obviously is like an ode to Demon Slayer. It doesn't infringe on any trademark. It's just a color scheme. For those who don't know, the Demon Slayer main character, Tanjiro, he has a black and green checkered like kimono on. All right, so any Demon Slayer fan who sees black and green checkers, they instantly think Demon Slayer. You weebs out there know what I'm talking about, right? Anyways, so I was like, let me create a listing that obviously cannot have the word Demon Slayer as a phrase anywhere in it, because I'd be violating trademarks. And I'm just curious. I just want to play around. Do some of these Maldives honeymoon strategies work for that when I can't even optimize my listing? I talked in the last episode, 699, about the importance of keywords. Remember, the keywords that are super important, you usually have to have in phrase form in your listing, right? So what happens when I cannot have the word Demon Slayer anywhere in my listing? So what I did was I created a couple of listings, 2 products. One of them started getting bad reviews. I had to throw away that case test anyways. But I said like, oh yeah, these, I don't have Demon Slayer in my title at all. Can't have that. But then I'll have like a bullet point or something that says, if you want to be a demon, like a demon party planner or something, and you want to give away some cool merch, and then somewhere else, hey, you want to be known as the Slayer who gives away the coolest merch at your anime parties. Also, in other words, I was trying to get index for demon and Slayer, because if I can get index for those 2 words individually, I'll be indexed, theoretically speaking, for Demon Slayer as a phrase. And sure enough, I did it. It worked. But oh man, it was like impossible to get Amazon to say I'm relevant. So this just goes back to show how important SEO is, which ties back to this, is on those other things, the disco balls, I had the keywords in exact phrase form. I just had to do one order. And then because I had those keywords in phrase form, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, our bad. you are relevant for this keyword. But for this Demon Slayer thing, I was doing like 3 and 4 orders doing the same strategy, and I still could not get on the Amazon relevancy rank. Again, looking at Helium 10 is the only way to see that until like later. But even with this, that my listing technically is not optimized for, by doing this, and I was able to get on page, page 1 for my main one of my main Demon Slayer keywords, Demon Slayer party decoration. So that was crazy, guys. Even without an optimized listing, it took a little bit extra work. And an interesting thing, I was trying everything. I was like doing Q&As and stuff, trying to get more relevant. Now, one interesting thing is in Rufus, I tried to do something where I asked it a question like, you can see this here in the image. Is it good for looking like Tanjiro at a Demon Slayer party? Okay, so I wanted to see, does Rufus know that my listing is about Demon Slayer, right? And sure enough, it says, yes, this fan is themed for Demon Slayer. So I'm like, cool. I not tricked, or maybe it's a matter of Rufus being smart to figure out that even though I don't use the word Demon Slayer, it knows that this is like Demon Slayer, because it says this fan is themed for Demon Slayer and can be used at a party of a Tanjiro costume for an anime party. All right, so but this just kind of shows how Rufus is different than SEO, because just because it said that, I still wasn't ranking very well for those keywords. So when you're optimizing for Rufus and you're optimizing for SEO, do not think these are one and the same things. You could be optimized for SEO but not optimized for Rufus. You could be optimized for Rufus where it can figure it out, but you're not optimized for SEO. So this was kind of like a cool way to kind of like prove that theory, but also to show that, hey, Rufus is pretty smart. Even though I didn't use the word Demon Slayer, it could like look at the pictures, I guess, and because of the rest of the way I worded the listings, like seeing through my little tricks to not violate trademarks and figure out that it's about Demon Slayer. So that's another cool project that I'm working on as well. So guys, hope you enjoyed this. This was like version 8. We only do this once a year now. Usually it's around September whenever we hit a 100 on the episode list. So this was 700. It's been great 700 episodes, guys. Oh my goodness. I remember the first time I did one of these episodes, it was like in 2021 or something like that, or 2020. We've come a long ways. Honeymoon period is still there. Thank you guys for being listeners. Millions of listeners out there to get us to 700 episodes. I would love to be able to do 700 more. Guys, follow me on my Instagram. Let me know what you thought about this. Serious Sellers Podcast. Drop me a follow on there. Drop a comment on one of my reels I have. I usually try and reply to the comments. And for anybody who wants to try out some of those strategies I talked about today, use and don't have Helium 10, use the code SSP20 to take 20% off Helium 10 for 6 months. So this is even if you have a platinum plan, you want to be able to use that listing analyzer, you want to be able to use those TikTok tools, you want to be able to use some other things, you can go to the diamond plan for 20% off 6 months using this code SSP20. From the Maldives Resort, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thinking about selling on TikTok Shop? Or maybe you are already in it and you're ready to scale. Unlock all of Helium 10's brand new TikTok Shop tools with our Diamond Plan. Everything from bulk Amazon to TikTok listing conversions to instant Amazon MCF fulfillment. Best of all, you use the code TT10 to get 10% off Diamond for 6 months, even if you've used a coupon before. So go ahead and upgrade and let Helium 10 do all the heavy lifting for you so you can focus on what really matters. For more info on our new TikTok Shop offerings, visit h10.me/TikTok. I'll see you there.